Hello and welcome to this special edition of Keeping It Real. For part of our series, we invite entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who have shared their stories in our guest blog to join us and discuss topics trending in business. Today's topic, creating successful online events. Our guest is Salma Burney, founder of Girl Friday, a virtual assistant and the producer for our own online global awards and networking event. As there are a number of business owners hosting events for the first time, Salma joins us today to share a few tips when planning and coordinating a successful virtual stage. It's my pleasure to welcome and introduce everyone to Salma Burney.
Hi, thank you.
You know, I absolutely love the fact that you're a part of our community. You know, you've been part of our series, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real before, obviously talking about Girl Friday. And I remember you had that really great cape on. But today we're going to talk about how you help people behind the scenes produce virtual events. So with your 20 years of experience as a virtual assistant, how would you describe the role of producer? Because I don't think people even realize that there is someone who can help them with the back end.
Yes, well, just imagine an octopus trying to do everything all at once, and you only have two hands. So having a virtual producer is that extra set of hands that you have as an octopus. So a virtual producer lets people in, makes out the breakout rooms, opens the polls, does all those things that you as a host don't have to worry about. You can focus on the participants, chat away. Just imagine if you were in an in-person event, you're giving a conference. You're not going to be at the back of the room signing people in. You're going to be at the front, at the stage, chatting with people, doing that social gathering. You have your assistants at the back, setting people up, getting them in, giving them their handouts. That's what a virtual producer does in the virtual world.
You know, I think that people forget, Salma, that what we're actually doing is creating a virtual stage.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's what they forget, right? They think because they're in the comfort of their home, perhaps wearing their fluffy slippers and drinking their coffee, that they forget that there's a world of folks who are out there that you've invited to come in to this virtual platform. And it's really helps with your brand identity to have somebody as a producer behind the scenes, because nobody wants to be seen as sort of all over the map and disorganized. And because that doesn't speak very well to your brand, right?
No. And if you're paying big bucks for a meeting, they're like, okay, I'm paying for this, and they're not even organized. Now, your virtual producer does not even have to be on there. When I go on to most sessions, I have my camera off and my audio off. So I'm in the background,
Right,
where the host is the focus and the participants. But the virtual producers in the background talking to people privately, asking, okay, what's your name? Because it says, Josh Smith, which was your kid's name, and you signed in under them, or it says on my iPhone, or you're not able to log in. So all those things in the background that you as a host don't need to worry about.
You know, that's a really great point, because I think even the participants coming on to an event sometimes forget how they've signed in. Right? So you can catch these things. You're really the eyes and ears and the support for the individual that's actually hosting the event, right?
Oh, for sure. A lot of times they ask at the end, the host says, so how many people showed up? Because you don't even have that time to check the participants. And what I do at all of my events is I take a screenshot of the participant panel, so I know exactly who's there, and we can make attendance later on.
Yeah, and you can also use those pictures for social media posts if you want to be able to sort of talk up the event that you had online, right?
Exactly.
Now, with the growing number of virtual events, because I still think that we're going to be in this hybrid world, right? Some folks are going to want to do things in person. Other folks are going to do things virtual. I mean, the reason why we do them virtual is because we have a global community. Yeah. And it's just too expensive to expect folks to fly from all over the world to attend your event. So from a practical and a financial aspect, it makes more sense to do something virtual. So if you were a first-time host, because I remember when I was a first time host, my gosh, I don't think I slept the night before. Like I kept thinking, oh my gosh, what about this? What about that? Perhaps with your expertise, you can share 3 things that you would consider a first time host should use as part of their planning process, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right. So if you are using a virtual producer, have a dry run ahead of time and not 30 minutes before the session. Do not do it the day of. When you do it the day of, you'll find those little things. Oh, I got to fix the PowerPoint. Oh, this had to be done. And now you're stressed out. At least do it 48 hours beforehand so that they can help you. Your virtual producer can also help you if there's problems with your PowerPoint slides or other things. They could fix those for you, and then you're all right. The second thing is send all the files that you want to have to your participants ahead of time. Plus, send your slides to your virtual producer as a backup, because God forbid you are online, your internet goes off. This is why it's always handy to have a co-host. I remember I was on one event and I'm just in the background, no problem. The host, her internet died in that whole city, and it was a big city. So because I had her run a play and I knew what was coming up, I popped on, I took over the slides, and I was able to continue on the presentation. I just went through what she had, and we had done it a few times, so I was comfortable with the material, and I was able to engage the participants and until she came back, and then she joined the session, and then I gave it back to her. So
that's a fantastic tip, because who knows if your internet's going to go down, right?
Exactly.
And so especially if you have paid participants.
Well, this was an executive coaching session. So you have people who have paid big bucks and they don't want to hold on. And if there is no other co-host, all of those people are just gone. The whole session ends. So by having a host and a co-host, you have that backup just in case.
Oh, that's a great tip. I know that you and I do that on our, and that was because you suggested it. I mean, it wasn't something that I knew to even ask for as a first-time host, but that's a really great tip because, as you say, we just don't know what's going to happen in this tech world, and we need to be prepared with a plan B, right?
Oh, exactly. Having her transcript of what she was going to say saved the day, because I had that already on my other computer, and I was able to pop in, and they understood who I was, because at the beginning of the session, during your housekeeping, you say, oh, and Selma's here as our virtual producer, IT support. If you have any problems, talk to her and she'll help you. The other thing, as a host, you're having breakout rooms, but sometimes participants got to leave. Something happened, they have another meeting, and you're making breakout sessions and they've left and you didn't know. As a virtual producer, most times the participants will talk to the virtual producer and say, I got to leave for 15 minutes, or someone's at my door. So I know not to put them in a breakout room with other people. So there's somebody in a room going, hello, I'm the only one
all
here.
by myself.
Exactly.
That's a really great tip. I mean, there's just so much comfort and confidence in knowing, and a trust relationship really between the host and the producer, because to your point, I know that I shared the script with you for our very first event, and it was a comfort to know that if anything went wrong, you could sort of pick things up and move things along, so that there was no, as you say, dead air in the we were recording too, right? Because we wanted to use it for social. So, and what would your third tip be?
Third tip is always have a post-mortem after the fact. Ask your virtual producer what worked, what didn't work. Do you have any suggestions? Because I do that even during our dry run. I actually will have a strategic session with you. And because I've seen so many different events, and I'll say, you know what? this doesn't make sense to me. Maybe you need to explain this differently,
Right.
or it just doesn't work logistically because they want to put them in this room and that room. And so the logistics doesn't work. So we get out all of those little blips beforehand, but
Mhm.
after the fact, knowing what worked so that you can make it better the next time.
Sure. Now, I was talking to somebody recently because, as you know, we have our award ceremony coming up. We do it once a year.
Mhm.
And someone had mentioned, have I ever considered doing a hybrid model? So having perhaps 15 or 20 people in a boardroom so that you get that live and in-person feeling, as well as having participants online. Is that something that we're seeing a little bit more of in our sort of post-COVID and virtual world, or are you just sticking to in person or virtual?
Actually, it's interesting you say that because I just did a hybrid event for a client. She is in Hamilton, Ontario, and she was doing a thing called the 6 minute memoir. So every person was saying their memoir in 6 minutes, and it was live at a theater. And there were virtual people like myself and about 60 other people that joined in virtually. So there was a lot of logistics before the hand
Oh,
because we
yeah.
actually, I said, we need to have a dry run at the theater and have everything working there so that we know how it's going to run over there.
Right.
So it can be done, but there's a lot more logistics involved. Yeah. The number one thing is if you're going to do it, make sure you're not on Wi Fi. Because when
Really?
you're on Wi Fi at that event, the internet might go down, not even go down, but it's unstable. So everything gets especially if you're doing audio and video. So it's so much better if you're directly connected to your router. And the same thing here at my house, everything's directly connected in because then I'm going to get the best internet strength.
That's a really great tip because, most of us even use Wi-Fi in our homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
mean, I wouldn't even, to be quite honest, I wouldn't even know how to connect to my router. I don't think I've ever done that. So, I mean, that's a really good point when you're trying to coordinate that in-person and virtual combination, right? Because
That
you're absolutely right. If it's Wi-Fi, you could have 15 or 20 or 100 people that are using that same connection.
That's right. And that's what happened at that location. Some people connected to their free Wi-Fi. Well, now you have all of these people, and
Right. It's
just imagine like
overloaded.
it's overloaded, and
Yeah.
you're trying to transmit this video electronically, and it was kind of shaky at sometimes. I had to let them know, or the audio was kind of blipping. But
Right.
they recorded, I believe it looked good because they recorded on their end. I didn't record, so it was okay on that side. But then you
Wow.
also have to worry about audio. When
Yeah.
you're inputting audio, how does it sound to the person? Make sure it's even. And that's why I wear a headset, because now I can hear both the left and the right. If I just use my speaker, I might not get that. And sometimes Zoom tends to record in mono. And then when you want to use it and edit, you have to change the audio settings when you're doing that so you get it in stereo.
Wow. See all these wonderful tips that I would never have even thought of. And that's another reason to have a producer, right? Now, you
Exactly.
just mentioned a really awesome event. So there were 60 people online, there were a number of people in person. In your experience, because the biggest fear I think people have when they're going to host, we'll just use virtual as the example, a virtual event. What is the most successful marketing strategy to get those people to attend that event? Because that's a really hard one, right? We all have, we've got followers on social media. We've got, most of us have a CRM system where we have email addresses that may be in a third party location, but we communicate with those people through newsletters or direct email. But is there a specific way in which you have seen other hosts be successful in getting people to their events?
I don't think there's one way. You can't put all your eggs in one
Right,
basket,
that, right.
right? And, some people, they just do all the advertising on Facebook. Well, Facebook goes down, you lose all your people.
Right.
Most marketing people tell you have an email list because that is gold. You own it, you control it.
Right.
So doing that email, reminding them well, you don't want to be a nag, but we do want to say, hey, it's coming up tomorrow. Have you bought your ticket? But I think when you're doing that, you don't want to send it to the people who've already bought a ticket. They're like, okay, I've already bought a ticket. I don't need to be told. Just let me know 2 hours. And Eventbrite's great for this. Eventbrite, once you bought a ticket, the default is they'll send you a notification the day before or 2 days before, 2 hours before the event. And then when the event starts, just reminding you, okay, it's time to come on.
Right.
So that's great with Eventbrite. If you use Eventbrite for your tickets, if you don't, then you have to set up some kind of flow for your emails to do that.
That's a really good point, because I think a lot of us have so many social platforms that we're trying to manage. And, that's really not our forte, right? I mean, unless you're a tech whiz and, that's part of your natural affiliation to your business, you're going to be sitting there going, I have no idea even where to start. If I want to have a system where people are going to pay to attend the event, what's the best way to do it? Do I put a ticket on my website? You've mentioned a great platform that people can use that they can then integrate their email list with and invite people to attend. So all of these things just bring to mind, Salma, that we can't possibly be an expert in everything that is required to be successful as a small business owner.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
I mean, as they say, you could be a general of everything, right?
Or a specialist in something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And, I love that our network, we really do collaborate. The wonderful thing about what we do when we share our stories is that we've introduced the products and services that you offer to a wider target market. And there's some synergies in knowing that we have some same core values when you belong to a community. So it's really very wonderful that, I was so pleased to have been introduced to you, and the fact that we've now been able to come up with this wonderful relationship where you produce our online events. Right. And I think you shared with our viewing and listening audience some really amazing tips. Even if you have done events in the past and maybe they haven't been as successful as you would like them to, there's nothing wrong with revisiting the script, right?
Oh, exactly. We always, you fine tune it each time. And then you learn what works. Now, sometimes it might work for a certain audience and not for another audience, because depending on your audience, if your audience is older, they have a certain learning style. The younger audience, like one of my executive coaches, she learned that when she had the younger ones, they wanted more breaks. They didn't want to paddle through. They wanted a break every 30 minutes. And it's like, oh, wow, hey, this is different. But she adapted because that's what they wanted. But that was just for that company that had these younger generation.
Right. That's a really great point. If you were to summarize our discussion today, in sharing with our viewing and listening audience, what word would you use to describe a successful event?
Collaboration.
Oh, that's a really great word. And we've already talked about it today, right? Where we collaborate with one another.
Exactly.
I really want to thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I'm really excited that we're getting ready and we're organizing our own event behind the scenes. And I think you shared some really valuable tips with our viewing and listening audience. So thank you for sharing your expertise.
Thank you for your questions.
To our viewing and listening audience, thank you for joining us today for this special edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Salma's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series, and we invite you to share your business story. Just visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Salma and I would like to thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time for another edition of Keeping It Real. Yes, we'll see you online. Absolutely.